Let's talk to Elliot Keck from the Taxpayers Alliance, because it turns out, according to stories this morning, the BBC have blown £169 million chasing TV licence dodgers. They're paying logistic company Whistle and the Royal Mail £33.8 million a year for 5 years to deliver letters to those suspecting of not paying. Unbelievable. Elliot, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Thanks very much for joining us. I mean, they just don't get it, do they, the BBC? They're not content with kind of losing millions and millions of licence fee payers who have just decided they don't want it anymore. They're now chasing after people, many of whom are vulnerable, and spending fortunes of our money doing so.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And just think of all the better things that money could have been spent on. You could have got around 120, 130 Gary Linekers for that money, just to take one example.
Heaven forbid.
Listen, I mean, the really shocking thing about this story is that these are people that they suspect may not have paid the licence fee. They don't even know whether or not they've paid the licence fee. And of course, the licence fee itself is a horrendously outdated concept. They should move to a subscription service. It's time to axe the TV tax.
And they really should. And it's going up and up and up and up, isn't it? I mean, it used to be that, oh, yeah, it's only, you know, whatever it is, £6 a week or something like that. But it's an awful lot of money for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to pay it even if you don't watch the BBC. Anybody that watches live television, whether that's ITV, Channel 4 or one of the other broadcasters, have to pay the licence fee, despite the fact that that money doesn't go to those corporations. That only goes to the BBC. You may despise the BBC. You may loathe every single thing that it produces, and yet you're still forced to pay what is essentially, as I said, a TV tax. It's time to scrap it.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, we know that they're going to have to come up with a new model at some point, and whether or not they get dragged kicking and screaming to that line, it's probably likely to be within the next, what, couple of years, do you think?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, the licence fee does come up for a review again, I think, next year. And I think that will be absolutely the moment to, as you say, drag it kicking and screaming. And listen, every single time that the BBC changes its attitude and changes its policy, it's normally because it's been dragged kicking and screaming. And I think that's going to have to be the approach from politicians. Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, who controls how much they can spend literally chasing the people that they believe owe them money for watching television without a licence? I mean, who's in charge of that? Well, ultimately, that will be the corporation's top execs, the people that are on hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds a year and are spending tens of millions of pounds, hundreds of millions of pounds of taxpayers' money, as you said, often going after the most vulnerable. We should remember that the people that tend to go to prison for not paying the licence fee tend to be women and tend to be older women. Right.
Well, we carried a story some months ago about how an awful lot of people that they do pick on are people who don't really understand many things. They might be cognitively, you know, in trouble. They might be mentally disturbed, or they might be, you know, suffering in some way or other from a disease which makes it difficult for them to pay the bills. Whatever it is, a large proportion of the people that they go after are people that should be left alone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's appalling. And remember, those that were over 75 used to have their licence fee paid for, covered. That's no longer the case. They're now having to pay for the licence fee themselves. And I think that you can imagine a large number of them that may not realise that change in policy are those that are being targeted. It's really appalling.
Yeah, absolutely right. Elliot, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Elliot Keck there from the Taxpayers Alliance.